Peace. I come in the name of infinite God, Allah. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, to be known as the East Side, which is kind of the East Side anyway, but kind of off of Avalon on the East Side. That's where I grew up at. Fortunate enough to have my mother and my father there. I got a little brother and an older sister, so it was the same household. And my mother and father both worked. But I know now we were still barely making ends meet. It wasn't like we was on the upper part of the spectrum, because I didn't have like all the name brand stuff, but everything was peace. And my childhood was really just regular. There wasn't no in and outs. It wasn't no drugs. It wasn't no violence. It wasn't a street element in my household, in my upbringing. It was none of that. So, but the street element for me, it came from movies and television. That's where it came from.
Okay.
That's where it came up. It definitely wasn't no influence in my household, because my family ain't street by no stretch of the imagination.
That's deep.
Peer pressure, recognition. Mine is more or less recognition. You see the Scarface, the Al Capone, John Gotti living. The John Gotti. He was real big at the time, and just the cliche of the terminology of the women, the influence, the power, which really isn't. But at a young age, I mean, you take it in for face value, and you just be like, that's what I want to do. I want recognition. I want people to know me. I want to be the life of the party. I want respect. I want people to fear me. And looking at these movies, and you're not looking at the underlying story in it. Like they come from highs to lows. You only caught up in the highs. That's it. So that was my thing. So when you went to school and you got amongst your peers, the in crowd kind of was that, and you want to be a part of the in crowd. So you start teetering on the other end. Just testing the waters a little bit. But it was always in my third though. I can remember at a very young age, I wanted to see what was on the other side of the fence, the temptation.
Okay.
So, like I said, I lived on the east side. And so it was probably about 6 of my friends that stayed on the same block with me. They wasn't gangbangers though, but they were a part of the street element. And not that I can hang out with them a lot, we played baseball up at the park, for a team. And so we was always with each other, basically at the park practicing. And, we going to different parks to play different teams. And so with them being a part of the street element, I gradually got more and more into it. And man, that's like that forbidden fruit, The more and more I got into it, the more and more I liked it,
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening, they started giving me stuff that I couldn't get. Like some fresh kicks, because you know, they probably was peddling a little dope on the side, you know, and they was older than me, you know, not by that much, maybe by 2 or 3 years. And give me a fresh starter jacket, give me some fresh J's and whatnot, you know, and, you know, so then you start looking apart, you know, and then your mental is going with it though. So, you know, you either gonna fake the front or you gonna keep it 100 and participate and continue to receive the accolades for being, you know, being down, being hard, you know, and at a young age, again, that's like some steroid or something. I just pump you up, and so you continue to go harder and harder, and then you ultimately you come across people that's really about their life, and I mean that's what I did. I mean, I came across very many occasions. You know, I got shot not. I got shot 3 times when I was 15, and man, I must have got jumped probably about 6 or 7 times. You know, yeah, it was about that life. You know, you get in there. You know, you do what you do. You know, so and then that, you know, that's gonna either make or break you. That's gonna either tell you that you ain't really about it, or you gonna be like, I am about it, and they gotta pay for what they done did now. You know, so you continue to go harder and harder. And then what does that do? The street, they know you now. Now you beyond some little high school or whatever, some little group of friend recognitions. Now you actually in this gang cipher, and people know you. And that's when you just get on some. That's when it's real bad for your ego, your pride, because then you motivated by, I can't turn down because the streets is gonna think, you know, that I'm a buster, I'm a punk or something, you know, because I've already established this reputation at a certain level. I gotta maintain that at all costs. And that's the proverbial dead end right there, though. You know, that's when you don't win, though. So, yeah, that's some deep science right there. If a person decided to do the knowledge to this bank robbing spree back in the early '90s, I was a part of that bank robbing spree, and I got caught up in it. And you know, I was a juvenile though. And I was one of the earliest cases of a juvenile going directly from juvenile hall to the state penitentiary in California. Now, some people don't understand what I mean by that, but you typically go from juvenile hall to the adult county jail and then the penitentiary. I went from juvenile hall straight to the penitentiary. I didn't even see the county jail. The penitentiary bus pulled straight up in front of juvenile hall and took me up out of the little cells and shot me straight to the penitentiary. So I was one of the first cases of basically trying to deter youngsters from robbing them banks. You know, but the downside of that was in juvenile hall, you kind of locked up most of the time outside of little recreation and going to school. But then when I got to the penitentiary, it was almost like freedom to where I could wear my own clothes. I was out at nighttime and the daytime, and man, I was like a contained fire in juvenile hall. But when I got in the penitentiary, I was still 17. I don't know what they thought I was gonna do, but I was about that. They cut me loose, and that's exactly what happened. They cut me loose, and I get a damn fool in there. So I ended up standing there like 4 years longer than I was supposed to. And this is definitely no testimony of trying to make this sound romanticizing of this lifestyle or nothing, because I wasted many years of something that could have been productive into negativity, which I dug myself into a hole that I'm still trying to get myself out of this hole. The fact remains that these are actual facts that happened, and somebody can take some jewels back from this. So again, I did like 4 extra years than I was supposed to. I think I did about 7 years and 2 months. And I walked the walk and I talked the talk. But the jewel was, that's where I started getting the knowledge itself towards my ending of getting out of the penitentiary. The unfortunate thing was, it was kind of taken as being normal. the cliche, and I hear people say, "Oh, my friends died, and all my friends in the penitentiary, and I've been to 100 funerals and blase, blase." Well, I'm gonna be another person saying the same thing because, again, this is actual fact. I've been to so many funerals that I don't even go to funerals now, and sometimes it's taking people taking on face value like it's disrespect, and I don't see it that way. I just been to so many funerals. I just find another way to pay my respects, and I didn't see people die from 15 years old, 15, 16 to their 30s. Like grown men with kids. Um, Jail with the same thing. They didn't throw their life away, and I mean at least 30 or 40. At least 30 or 40, and I'm talking about in a very small circumference, just in a local neighborhood, 30 or 40 people. So really, that neighborhood almost lost like 2 decades of men growing up in that neighborhood because they gone, and some is recent, all the way back in the day. And I can remember the ones that was back in the day, the potential they had and the influence that they had and all the jewels that they that really could have been given, but obviously the lifestyle that they chose to live, they end up, with shortcomings. And the same thing with people going to the injustices. Um, it's unfortunate. So I mean, it's too many. I was on the phone building with one of my good friends the night before last for 2 hours. Yeah, they had cell phones in jailhouse. Yeah. So I talked to my man like 2 hours, and it's unfortunate. My man been in there for like 12 years and probably got another 4 to go, and he even bear witness that his kids is missing out. So of course when you get to that position to where you immobile, where you just got to sit down, come to realization like what you was doing, it could have been utilized in a different capacity that your loved ones and people could have gained some benefits from it. So yeah, it's too much of that. A lack of knowledge itself, for one, and that may be the umbrella that different categories can fall under that umbrella. Lack of knowledge itself, which would be they grew up into that type of era, into that type of mentality to where, individualism to where it's just me, me, me. I don't care about no race, because again, I came from that cipher, and it just be like anybody can get it. And they kind of use it jokingly, like, look, I'm not biased. Black, white, Mexican, Asian, like anybody can get it. So don't think that I'm only limited to bringing harm to black people. But yeah, they more inclined to do something to their own folks for numerous reasons. One of the reasons is because that's what's around you. That's around you. I got beef with, out here in LA anyway. Most of the gangs is blocks away from each other. I mean, you can look outside and see your enemies down the street, so it's just that sometimes it's, for lack of a better term, it's the convenient people to beef with. But what's happening right now is, which is, I would say nationally, people know that a lot of the black gangs and Mexican gangs out here in LA, they beef with each other because they literally shared the same neighborhood for 20, 30 years. And for various reasons, they clashing now. But for me, I just look at it as they just too close to each other. It's not enough room. Egos play a part. This my spot. This my this, that, and bam. And another thing, it kind of spills over from that science in the prison with the blacks and Mexicans and so on and so forth. So that's another bill, though. Once you front line for so long and you see the effects firsthand and the compassion, it kicks in. It's like I liken it to when you see a Vietnam vet or a Gulf War vet or something. typically, if they got their scruples together, they come back mellow and humble because they know how far it can go and they done seen it like firsthand. And so it's kind of the same to me. Like I know what it is. I know the violence. I understand the different steps in that cipher. That's all bad. It's not all a honeymoon. And once you come to grips with that and you understand that it's really about nothing and you know where it can go, you ultimately say, I'm going to take a step back and I'm not going to do absolutely nothing. I'm just going to just live my life. Or you can continue to participate. Or you're going to say, well, with what I know, I can add on to somebody to maybe spark them to take a step back, or something that ultimately would basically save their lives, hopefully, or they'll give something to somebody else. So I chose to share the jewels, because typically people from that lifestyle, when they build with somebody that came from that lifestyle, it resonates with them, and they take it home, and communication is just better. So I'm just, I want to be a part of that process, and it's a part of my duty. I gave my word to do things of that nature, so um, I gotta honor that. That gang lifestyle is like it's a drug. It's an addiction, like alcohol or crack or cocaine or whatever the case may be. It's an addiction. It's an addiction as if you like some type of extreme athlete or something. It's an adrenaline rush, regardless that you know that the outcome could be unfavorable. But it's an adrenaline rush. And just to step away, again, that's like telling an alcoholic, to stop drinking tomorrow. Sort of kind of the same processes that I've heard and I did a knowledge to from people to get off alcohol. You got to get yourself away from that cipher. You can't straddle the fence and hope to get away, because each minute, each day, that next scenario that can happen, it can just take you to another whole level of that. Then you got to get involved in other activities. So you definitely got to get away from that cipher. And a lot of times you live in that cipher. So, you say, well, how the hell I'm going to get away if I live there? Well, some of the things you got to cut back on. A diet comes in many forms. Sometimes you got to cut your meals off with the homies a little bit. You got to cut that out. You normally come to the house, you kick it, you go around the corner to the homie house and you break a little bread. Maybe you got to stop going around to the homie house, though. You got to get involved in other activities, something that tweaks your interest, so you won't spend as much time, because the old cliche is idle time is a devil's playground. That's what you're doing. Not no devil as in some tangible devil. It's your own issues that you got going on within. Like, you need that. You need that. It's, again, like I said, it's an addiction. You go around there with the homies, you go get your fix. Not physically, but mentally. You go there and you get that. So you got to kind of break that cycle. And once you start breaking the cycle and you finding other things to do, a month go by, 2 months go by, the next thing you know, and your kicking the time is going slowly, but it's slowing up. And then you got to have the self-preservation to break away. Because it takes somebody to stand up to look at their cohort, so to speak, and be like, hey, I'm really not with that no more. And I know all about that. When you go to get killed to get out and blah, blah, blah. Not to say some of that crazy shit don't happen, but in the percentages, that's some bullshit. Like I said, I know it didn't happen before, but put it this way, the gang is not like some international crime syndicate that's going to follow you all around. These dudes are some local cats. They local. They're not searching for people. I mean, unless you do something real crazy, that's something else. But just to say I don't want to participate anymore, I mean, you got to get to that point, and you got to really want to do it. Not to say that it's going to be easy, but you really got to make that decision within yourself and just say that you want to turn another leaf. Like, you just want to get away from it. And just as many times as people say they can't do it, it's just as many people who have done it already. So don't get caught up into the equality about what you can't do. It can be done. One of my hardest things was to get out of the street jacket.
Street jacket.
Yeah, you street cats carry a certain swag about themselves. That boy in the work field, where you stand out like a sore thumb, walking around with some type of penitentiary stroll or something. Your clothes really not fitting right because you're so used to wearing triple X's all the time. And I'm definitely not knocking it, but just when you in the employment field, you standing out, that you rough all around the edges, and employer, supervisor, manager looking like, I don't know about this ruffian because he might end up whipping my ass or something. So you got to smooth those edges out. And, another cliche is hard work. You got to outwork the next cat because you already behind the 8 ball. You coming up in there with penitentiary tattoos, with a felon rap sheet trying to get on. You behind the 8 ball, buddy. And then you just deal with reality. Guess what? When you go in there and meet them cats, they didn't put you in there. They didn't put you behind the 8 ball. These is other men and women that's doing their job. You go in there and you put that hard work in, and yeah, you might shovel shit. I shoveled shit for like 8 years. Now, that's a technical term, but I mean just doing hard labor work. Man, unloading trucks, offloading trucks, and stacking heavy-ass sandbags. And man, but I took that responsibility. That was my responsibility. I had to shoulder that, and I had to put things in motion, not to happen tomorrow, but how about a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan? And I stick to my guns. And the work showed for itself. And then you learn how to fill out a resume. When I say fill out a resume, like anything else, there's little tweaks and twists that you put in there. You got to think. Like when an employer's reading your resume, they don't want no whole autobiography. Put some high keynotes on there. What you do, how you get down. And, you go shaved up. You don't got to, obviously I got a full beard, right? You don't got to be all O.J. Simpson by the face. You just go up in there, and you put your best foot forward. But you got to keep in mind that street swagger is a time and place for it. And you got to talk to people that are working, that's going to give you some good advice. I don't want to go build with the homie on the corner selling. This dude don't work. What he going to tell me about going to get a job? His job is right here. He can't tell me about that. I need to talk to somebody that's in there, that does it, that goes to work every day, that punches the time clock and so on and so forth. So, not to belabor the point, but my advice is to acknowledge that you got street swagger, and you got to be able to adapt. You adapt into the different ciphers that you go into. When you with the homies and you at the barbecue or whatever, you can triple exit all you want to. That's your business because you at your own leisure time. But when you get in that cipher to where you need to get that job, man, you got to get in there and really show that you got professionalism and that you really want to work and that you're responsible. And it ain't gonna happen overnight. We already know about the trials and tribulations about getting employment now and everything. You got to stay the course. As long as you stay the course, it's going to bear fruit. It's going to bear fruit. That's my advice right there. Man, I think about the ups and downs I gave my parents. Boy, I figured I knew everything. Everything. My father was my nemesis. Half of the things I did was to prove this dude wrong. And it's tough. It's like a labor of love. And then you get to a point to where you can't run them. You can't. And now you got different things you can do. You can either, on one extreme, pamper them and just be a doormat, let them run over you. Or you can go to the other extreme and just give them some physical justice. But once they get a certain age, physical justice it's just like the weather, man. It's going to come and it's going to go. So my suggestion is to stay the course into this. It's not going to be easy by no stretch of the imagination. You got to stay the course and man, that's tough. And I'm really talking to the parents, for kids that's already in the streets or that you can tell that's on their way to the streets. The surroundings, mentorship, getting them to see other things. Because a lot of times you used to be thinking, they live for the next moment. They don't even live for tomorrow. They live for the next hour. And they so caught up into their surroundings that they can't think outside of that. They think that this 20-mile radius is the whole world. This is everything. So a lot of times you got to take them out to show them that, hey, this is a microcosm of the whole big enchilada. So that'll be the advice for the parents and for the actual children. This ain't the whole life. This ain't it. You look around and you see the outcome. But teenagers, you get into this rebellious stage where you fight back. And it's important to know that it's a phase that you're going through, and it's really just a phase that you're going through. If you take it back to 5 or 6 years before you became a teenager, you look back, you was on something else. And then you get to this, and then you want to be grown. Well, something that I tell my own daughters is, look at from when you were born up until when you would say, up until when you 20. That's 20 years. You're going to be grown a lot longer than you're going to be young. All right? Some obvious shit, but everybody don't catch that. So you figure, right? Let's say like when you really think you own and you know everything you got to know. I'm going to keep it 100. So go from 13 up until 19. That's 6 years where you think you got everything in the palm. You know every damn thing right up in these 6 years. That's 6 lousy years. So go from 20 on. That's just 30, 40 years of being grown. Don't be in a rush to be grown. That's my advice. You're going to be grown. You can do what you want to do, so to speak, You're going to be grown. Don't rush to get into that. Enjoy them parents, your parents, buying you clothes and feed you and putting a roof over your head. Enjoy them benefits. Because when you get grown and you got to do it yourself, it's not no cakewalk. And that's why you see a lot of people in poverty, because they chunked off their them golden moments when they should have been building. But they was bullshitting off on the side. And I'm definitely one of those ones too. So that would be my advice.